Long before European ships touched the shores of the Americas, a powerful civilization thrived in the heart of North America. Between 800 and 1600 CE, the Mississippian civilization rose from the fertile valleys of the Mississippi River, building monumental earthworks, organizing vast trade networks, and establishing one of the most intricate cultures the continent had ever seen. It was a world of ceremonial mounds, bustling urban centers, priest kings, and spiritual cosmologies that touched the stars. Known today as the Mound Builders, the Mississippians were not a single tribe or kingdom, but rather a cultural tradition, spread across hundreds of settlements from the Great Lakes to the Gulf of Mexico and from the Mississippi River to the Appalachian foothills. At their height, they developed highly organized societies centered on cities like Cahokia, a metropolis larger than London in its time. This civilization flourished with vibrant agriculture, particularly the cultivation of maize, and engaged in expansive trade that linked distant regions of North America. They crafted exquisite artifacts, governed through hierarchical chiefdoms, and embedded their beliefs in ceremonial practices that blended the earthly with the divine. Yet, by the time European colonists arrived, many of their cities had vanished. What happened to this complex society? How did they rise to such heights? And why did they fall into silence? In this documentary, we journey into the world of the Mississippians, exploring their monumental architecture, unraveling the secrets of their political systems, diving into the spiritual universe that inspired their art, and tracing the legacy they left behind. This is the story of a forgotten American empire, the Mississippian Civilization. The story of the Mississippian Civilization begins with the land itself, the riverine arteries of North America. The civilization spread across a vast expanse of territory, with its cultural core in the Mississippi River Valley, but its reach extended far wider. From present-day Illinois and Missouri to the Florida Panhandle, from the Carolina Piedmont to the Ozark Highlands, the Mississippians built thriving communities wherever the land allowed abundance. What made this region so favorable? The key was geography. The Mississippi, Ohio, Tennessee, and Arkansas rivers provided natural highways for transport, communication, and trade. The lowland floodplains offered rich alluvial soils ideal for farming, especially the intensive cultivation of maize, the lifeblood of Mississippian agriculture. These rivers also teemed with fish, and the surrounding forests provided game, nuts, and berries, enabling early villages to support growing populations. But the Mississippians did not emerge in isolation. Their rise was built on the shoulders of their cultural ancestors, the Woodland and Hopewell peoples. These earlier groups had already developed mound-building traditions, ceremonial centers, and trade routes stretching across the continent. It was from their foundation that Mississippian society evolved. Around 800 CE, a cultural transformation began. Settlements became larger, agriculture intensified, and new social hierarchies emerged. The Mississippians began constructing massive platform mounds, flat-topped earthworks built for temples, elite residences, and public ceremonies. These were not just feats of engineering, but also statements of power, belief, and permanence. At the heart of this transition was the move from egalitarian village life to stratified chiefdoms. Leaders wielded religious and political authority. Communities became more centralized, and social complexity deepened. By the 11th century, urban centers such as Cahokia had grown into sprawling cities, complete with plazas, palisades, neighborhoods, and intricate ceremonial schedules. What had once been scattered villages along rivers had now transformed into one of North America's first urban civilizations, linked not by empire, but by shared cultural practices, trade, and spiritual belief. To understand the power and longevity of the Mississippian civilization, we must explore how they organized themselves and how they ruled. At the heart of their society was a system known as a chiefdom, a complex social structure where power was hereditary and authority rested in the hands of a ruling elite. Unlike empires ruled by vast bureaucracies or standing armies, Mississippian chiefdoms revolved around charismatic priest kings, sometimes referred to by titles such as the Great Sun. These leaders were believed to be chosen by the gods, divine intermediaries between the human and spiritual worlds. Their rule was not only political, but profoundly religious. The chief's authority was visible everywhere, in the layout of cities, the placement of temples atop mounds, and in the lavish goods buried with the elite. At the apex of each society stood the chief and his immediate family, followed by a noble class of advisors, warriors, and religious specialists. Below them were the commoners, farmers, craftsmen, and laborers who supported the society through their toil. Life in a Mississippian village or city was deeply stratified, but it was also interconnected. Large towns were often surrounded by satellite villages and hamlets, forming a kind of regional network. The chief resided at the central mound, while other social and religious functions radiated outward into the surrounding communities. Cities were planned with precision and intention. Most were built around large plazas, with mounds arranged according to cosmological principles. This was no coincidence. The social order was mirrored in the physical landscape, creating a worldview in which humans, gods, and nature were harmoniously aligned. Women, while not often occupying political leadership roles, played crucial parts in Mississippian society. Lineage in many Mississippian cultures was matrilineal, meaning descent and inheritance passed through the mother's line. Women managed agriculture, controlled food stores, and participated in religious ceremonies, reinforcing their importance in both daily life and sacred tradition. Marriage alliances were also tools of diplomacy. Chiefs often strengthened their regional influence by marrying into powerful families, creating networks of loyalty and kinship across different communities. While warfare did occur, especially in the later stages of the civilization, it was not the dominant force in governance. Instead, the Mississippian model of power was ideological. Chiefs maintained control through rituals, symbols, and spectacle. Their ability to predict the seasons, conduct ceremonies, and build monuments bound people to their rule. Towering above the flat floodplains of the Mississippi, near what is today East St. Louis, Illinois, stood the greatest city of pre-Columbian North America, Cahokia. At its peak around 1100 CE, Cahokia covered an area of 6 square miles and housed as many as 20,000 people, a population that rivaled medieval European cities of the same era. At the heart of Cahokia rose a staggering monument of earth and labor, Monks Mound. This colossal platform mound stands nearly 100 feet high, spans over 14 acres, and required the movement of an estimated 22 million cubic feet of earth, all carried in woven baskets by hand. Atop the mound likely sat the home or temple of the city's paramount chief, casting his sacred gaze over the grand central plaza below. Monks Mound was not alone. Over 120 mounds once dotted the Cahokian landscape, arranged in carefully planned alignments and serving various purposes. Some were platform mounds, designed to elevate elite residences or temples above the surrounding city. Others were burial mounds, interring important individuals with grave goods. Still others served ceremonial or astronomical functions, aligned with solstices or lunar cycles, testament to the Mississippians' sophisticated understanding of the cosmos. Building these mounds required communal effort, social organization, and religious motivation. Entire neighborhoods participated in the construction, often over generations. The process itself became a ritual of unification, bonding communities through shared belief and purpose. Cahokia's design reflected the cosmology of its people. Its plazas and mounds were oriented with celestial bodies, marking the passage of time and seasons. One structure, known as Woodhenge, consisted of large wooden posts arranged in a circular pattern, serving as a solar calendar akin to Stonehenge. On equinoxes and solstices, the sun would rise in perfect alignment with specific posts, allowing the priest astronomers to track time and divine the will of the gods. But Cahokia was not alone. To the southeast, Moundville in modern Alabama emerged as another major ceremonial and political center. With more than 30 mounds, Arranged around a central plaza, Moundville was a thriving community steeped in religious ritual and social hierarchy. Further south, in Georgia, the city of Etowah boasted massive mounds and striking burial goods, painted shells, polished copper, and carved stone figures, revealing deep artistic and spiritual traditions. To the west, in what is now Oklahoma, the site of Spiro revealed one of the richest archaeological treasures in North America. Hidden within a collapsed chamber, now known as the Great Mortuary Mound, were intricate copper plates, effigy pipes, pearls, and ceremonial masks. These items, crafted with stunning detail, had been transported across vast distances, showing how trade and religion were interwoven across the Mississippian world. Each mound, each city, tells part of a larger story. Together, they reveal a civilization capable of immense feats of engineering, driven by a unifying vision of sacred space, cosmic order, and social power. Beneath the spiritual grandeur of mound-topped temples lay the foundation of Mississippian prosperity: agriculture. At the heart of their economy was the cultivation of the three sisters, maize, beans, and squash, a triad that complemented each other both in the soil and on the table. Maize provided calories and structure, beans fixed nitrogen in the soil, enriching it, and squash spread across the ground, suppressing weeds and retaining moisture. This intelligent form of companion planting enabled surplus harvests that could feed thousands and support a stratified urban society. With abundant food, Mississippian societies developed redistribution systems. Elites collected tributes of maize and other resources, then redistributed them during feasts and rituals, reinforcing loyalty and power. Storage pits and granaries were built to hold these surpluses, creating security during lean years and further stabilizing the social order. Beyond farming, Mississippians were skilled artisans. Craft specialization flourished in larger centers. Potters crafted smooth, burnished vessels adorned with sacred symbols. Artisans shaped shell beads and gorgets, hammered copper into ritual plates and headdresses, and wove textiles from plant fibers and animal hair. These goods fueled an expansive trade network that stretched across the continent. From the Gulf Coast, they acquired marine shells. From the Great Lakes, they brought back native copper. Mica from the Appalachians, obsidian from the Rockies, chert, flint, and even exotic bird feathers moved through these routes. The city of Spiro, in particular, emerged as a trade and spiritual hub, its treasures reflecting cultural connections that spanned thousands of miles. Items found in Spiro have parallels as far away as the Southwest, the Plains, and the Atlantic coast. Trade was more than commerce. It was cultural exchange. It spread ideas, art styles, religious motifs, and political influence. Mississippian culture became a continental phenomenon, recognizable from Louisiana to Minnesota, from Georgia to Oklahoma, not because of conquest, but because of connectivity. At the core of Mississippian life was a deep spiritual worldview, one that infused every aspect of their society, from how they farmed and traded to how they built their cities and buried their dead. Their religion was polytheistic, closely tied to nature and the cosmos, and richly encoded in their art and architecture. This belief system is best exemplified by what scholars call the Southeastern Ceremonial Complex, SECC, a widespread set of religious symbols, motifs, and iconography shared across Mississippian chiefdoms. The SECC wasn't a single religion, but rather a symbolic language of power and sacred order that connected the elite classes across vast distances. Central to Mississippian cosmology was a three-tiered universe, an upper world of celestial beings and sky powers, a middle world of humans and earth, and an underworld of spirits, water, and death. These realms were interconnected, and access to them was mediated by the elites, especially the priest kings who performed rituals atop the sacred mounds. The number 4 was sacred, representing the cardinal directions, and the universe was thought to be structured like a cosmic square. Mounds, plazas, and towns were aligned to reflect this geometry. The sun and moon were not merely celestial bodies, they were deities, life-givers, and timekeepers. Eclipses, solstices, and seasonal shifts all held spiritual significance and were carefully observed. Mississippian art conveyed this rich cosmology in visual form. Copper plates depicted birdmen, part human, part hawk warriors representing the sky realm. Serpents and horned rattlesnakes symbolized the underworld, water, and transformation. One recurring symbol, the hand and eye motif, is believed to represent the portal between the worlds, the shamanic gateway through which spiritual power flows. Their artistry was both sacred and masterful. Shell gorgets were intricately carved with spiral patterns and figures. Pottery ranged from practical cooking vessels to ceremonial urns featuring abstract faces and animal motifs. At Spiro, archaeologists uncovered engraved stone tablets used in rituals and mask-like effigies worn by high-status individuals. Religion unified the Mississippians, giving meaning to life and death, anchoring their social hierarchy, and binding their cities across thousands of miles. It was not just belief, it was architecture, art, ceremony, and the heartbeat of their civilization. While towering mounds and grand plazas capture the imagination, much of the Mississippian world was grounded in the rhythms of daily life, a life shaped by the seasons, sustained by the land, and enriched by culture. Mississippian villages were well-organized communities, often arranged around central plazas that served as gathering spaces for rituals, trade, and games. Houses were typically built using wattle and daub construction, wooden frames woven with vines and plastered with clay, then roofed with thatch or bark. These structures were clustered in family compounds, surrounded by gardens and food storage pits. The people wore clothing made from plant fibers, animal hides, and woven textiles. In warmer months, men often wore breechcloths and women wore wrap skirts, both decorated with shells, feathers, and paint. As artisanship advanced, elites adorned themselves with copper ornaments, engraved shell gorgets, and dyed fabrics, each a symbol of status and spiritual power. Music and dance played a central role in both daily life and ceremony. Drums, flutes, and rattles made from gourds and shells set the rhythm for dances performed during seasonal festivals and religious gatherings. These festivals marked the planting and harvest cycles, celebrated the sun's movements, and brought communities together for communal feasting. Among the most popular pastimes was a game known as chunky. Played with a smooth stone disc and long spears, the goal was to throw a spear where the disc would stop rolling. But chunky was more than sport. It was ritualistic, sometimes used to settle disputes or reinforce social order. The food culture was rich and varied. In addition to the Three Sisters crops, maize, beans, and squash, Mississippians consumed sunflower seeds, goosefoot, nuts, berries, and wild game. Food preparation involved grinding corn into meal, boiling stews in clay pots, and roasting meats over open fires. But perhaps the most enduring aspect of Mississippian life was the power of oral tradition. Without written language, history and wisdom were passed from generation to generation through storytelling. Myths of origin, tales of trickster spirits, and heroic sagas tied communities to their ancestors and the spirit world. Life in the Mississippian world was communal, spiritual, and deeply connected to nature. It was a culture of celebration and survival, where people built both mounds and memories. By the early 14th century, shadows began to fall over the once thriving Mississippian world. Great cities like Cahokia, Moundville, and Spiro entered periods of decline, and by 1600, many of the grand mound centers had been abandoned. What caused the unraveling of such a vibrant civilization? Multiple threads contributed to the decline. First, the very success of Mississippian cities may have led to overpopulation and environmental stress. Forests were cleared for construction and fuel, and soil was exhausted by intensive agriculture. With fewer natural buffers, communities became more vulnerable to crop failures and resource shortages. Then came the Little Ice Age, a period of global cooling that began around 1300 CE. Shorter growing seasons and unpredictable weather patterns made agriculture less reliable, causing food scarcity and increasing social tension. Internal factors played a role as well. As central authority weakened, possibly due to competition among elites or religious disillusionment, societies may have fractured. Archaeological evidence suggests fortifications and palisades were constructed around some cities, indicating a rise in conflict and instability. But the final and perhaps most devastating blow came from beyond the continent. In the 16th century, European contact, direct and indirect, sent shockwaves through indigenous societies. Even before Europeans reached Mississippian heartlands, diseases like smallpox and influenza spread along trade routes, decimating populations with no immunity. These epidemics disrupted food production, undermined social structures, and accelerated abandonment. Trade networks collapsed, religious centers lost influence, and once great cities like Cahokia were emptied, their temples left to the weeds and the wind. Those who survived fled into smaller, more mobile groups, adapting to new realities and changing landscapes. Though the Mississippian cities faded, their descendants endured. Though the great mounds now rise in silence, the legacy of the Mississippian civilization continues to echo through the rivers, forests, and people of the American Southeast. Many Native American tribes today, such as the Choctaw, Creek, Chickasaw, and Natchez, trace cultural and spiritual connections to the Mississippian world. Their oral traditions preserve memories of mound builders, sun worship, and ceremonial feasts, linking past to present in a powerful continuum of identity. For centuries, the mounds stood misunderstood or ignored. Early European settlers often believed they were built by lost civilizations, disconnected from living native peoples. But in the 19th and 20th centuries, archaeological investigations began to reveal the true depth and complexity of Mississippian society. Sites like Cahokia, Etowah, and Spiro were excavated, their artifacts cataloged and studied. The immense scale of construction, the richness of trade goods, and the sophistication of art overturned long-held myths about pre-Columbian North America. Today, Cahokia stands as a symbol of this ancient power. In 1982, it was designated a UNESCO World Heritage Site, recognized as one of the most important archaeological locations in the world. Its preservation, alongside other mound sites, is a testament to the efforts of historians, indigenous communities, and environmentalists alike. But the story doesn't end in the past. Across the U.S., Native communities are reclaiming their heritage. Cultural centers, language programs, and ceremonial revivals are breathing new life into Mississippian traditions. The mounds are no longer seen as relics, but as living monuments, spiritual landscapes that still hold meaning today. Modern technology is also playing a role. Ground-penetrating radar, satellite imagery, and 3D reconstructions are helping researchers understand the vast scope of Mississippian cities without disturbing sacred ground. Collaborative efforts between archaeologists and tribal historians are ensuring that these stories are told with respect and authenticity. The Mississippian civilization may have risen and fallen centuries ago, but its spirit endures. In the art, in the soil, and in the hearts of those who remember, the builders of mounds still speak to us, and their message is clear. This was a world of vision, complexity, and enduring legacy. As we reflect on the world of the Mississippians, what emerges is a civilization of extraordinary sophistication, one that rose not from stone temples or written scripts, but from earth, tradition, and the enduring spirit of community. They built monumental cities without the wheel or draft animals, aligned their temples to the stars, and governed through a complex blend of spirituality and hierarchy. Their economy stretched across thousands of miles, powered by the bounty of maize fields and the skill of artisans who shaped beauty from shell, stone, and copper. Their art spoke of gods, heroes, and cosmic truths. Their festivals celebrated cycles of nature and the sacred bond between people and the land. In every mound they built, Whether a towering platform for a chief or a humble burial site for an elder, they left behind more than earth and clay. They left a message that here once thrived a people of vision, of order, and of deep connection to the forces of life. The Mississippian civilization challenges us to reconsider what we know about the history of the Americas. Too often, the achievements of indigenous peoples have been obscured or underestimated. Yet, here in the heart of North America, long before European ships reached these shores, a vibrant and organized society flourished. Preserving this legacy is not just about honoring the past. It is about recognizing the living descendants of this culture, listening to indigenous voices, and understanding that history is not only what is written in books, but also what is carried in the earth, spoken in stories and remembered in ceremony. The mounds still rise from the soil, silent but powerful. They do not crumble because they are forgotten. They stand because the Mississippians still speak, in echoes of drums, in lines of petroglyphs, and in the dreams of their descendants. Their story, though ancient, remains very much alive.